Hi, and welcome to the final day of the Connected Learning Summit. It's been so exciting to meet a lot of you and to see the work that's being done. Personally, my highlight of Connected Learning Summit has been um, the Connected Learning Rising Scholars. We had a pre-session with graduate students, and it was just really amazing to connect with both students and faculty and mentors to talk about all of the work that's being done. Um, it's been almost an entire month since CLS kicked off, and there's just been so many amazing things. And I'm just excited about this last day and the Ignite talks that we have after this. So actually, I'm going to pass it over to Corey, and Corey will introduce us to Ignite Talks.
Hello, all. Thank you, Jaleesa. Hang on one sec while I get my background. There we go. What a month, right? Thank you, Jaleesa. I have been able to hear so many fantastic talks, been able to participate in so many invigorating conversations. Thank you to all of the participants, the attendees throughout this whole month. And right now, we're gathered in this virtual space for a series of Ignite Talks. And Ignite Talks, if you don't know, are 5-minute talks where each talk has 20 slides that auto advance every 15 seconds. And our speakers today are the first to do this virtually for Connected Learning Summit. So they don't even have control of the slide deck. I do. So if anything goes awry, if there's any glitches, blame me. And we have 7 talks today. And these talks are exhortations, they're encouragements, they're talks that might help us reflect on where we've been and where we're going from here. These Ignite speakers have worked so hard on these talks, and I want us to show them some love while they do their thing, some virtual clouder live stream love. So in person, if you can remember to the before times, there's always this great energy in the room during Ignite talks. So what might that energy look like in this virtual space? Well, if you look at the right side of your screen, there's a little speech bubble in a purple box. And if you click on that, it opens up the chat function, and you can go ahead and open that up. Go ahead, open it up. And so how about y'all just give us a word. When you think of your CLS experiences this month, what's the word that comes to mind? And we'll just wait a second for people to post their words. Wendy says connected. Perfect. Inspired. Yes. Now, as people add their words, as you think about what your experience has been, in that chat window lined up just above where the type box is, you'll see a series of emotes, and you all are pros at this already because I already saw some of them. They don't show up in the chat, but these are even better. So when you click on them, you get a little floating thing that goes by. So let's all, there you go. I see some hearts, some thumbs up, some clapping. Don't be shy. Great. Perfect. So that's some good energy. This is the way we might virtually share the energy here at these Ignite talks. And how we're going to show these Ignite speakers. That's going to close this out for us, show them our appreciation as they exhort us and encourage us. So without any further ado, here are your Connected Learning Summit 2021 Ignite Talks.
Hey guys, I'm Holly. We're so excited to share Homewood Science Center's Girls Team Success Club with you. I just dropped it in the chat. You guys can check out our website and follow along.
Girls of color are not seeing themselves in STEM fields. Stories like this Instagram post tell the story. Women make up just 30% of the nation's scientists and engineers, and only 4% are women of color. STEM jobs are high paying, and underrepresentation limits women's economic mobility. It also reduces our nation's growth from innovation.
But you can help set the future of women in STEM. You can start by finding your place in society. You can recognize your own powers, your resources, how you can make a difference. Examine your prejudice, raise your voice, change how you respond to girls' interests and their aspirations. We've seen it in the media. We've seen it. People are starting to tell stories of women in STEM, and it sure is a start, but we need to make STEM career paths seem less like dreams and more like actionable, realistic plans.
We must create a culture where females, especially students of color, are encouraged to pursue STEM. Homewood Science Center has a diverse network of women leading the way, like our mentor, Dr. Courtney Hughes, seen here. Women who are excited to share with our next generation. Hi, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Holly. And like I said, we run Homewood Science Center's Girls STEAM Success Club. The club met online every Tuesday from January to June, 9th through 12th grade girls connecting with diverse professionals in STEAM. We practiced goal setting, we worked on 21st century job skills, and we explored citizen science.
So here's our stats. 56 club members, 98% racial and ethnic minority representation, 53% from low-income families. We asked students for 8 hours of participation, 63% met that, and 20 students more than doubled it. How do we get these results?
Well, we focused on STEM and self-efficacy. You can't be what you can't see. And so exposure to STEM careers, plus the confidence boost that our students experienced, it opened up possibilities for their futures.
We developed a guidebook to help keep us on track. We curated lesson plans, created our own SMART goal exercises, and leaned on free resources. Even though the club was online, we had a ton of engaging activities. We know that students do better when parents are involved. So we talked with parents about their daughters' goals and provided scholarship and volunteer information. We forged meaningful relationships like at our family field trip seen here.
And we know that representation matters. Our mentors are a diverse group, diverse racially, ethnically, diverse in their knowledge, their skill sets. They represented academic, technical, creative fields. Really, the array of our mentors made the club meetings exciting.
Students and mentors shared their emotions, positive and negative. Our check-ins normalized talking about feelings like being overwhelmed or isolated. Girls and mentors offered tips for self-care and planning for success. Generations of women built each other up and listened to each other's goals. We weren't sure our students were always engaged with online meetings, but our success stories demonstrate the impact we had.
Abigail enjoyed being able to go into a fun and comfortable environment that she could share her thoughts. She also thought it was a big eye-opener when a speaker comes in to share insight on their profession.
And meet Val. Val was accepted to a study abroad program. Unsure how to cover costs, she set a SMART goal to fundraise and ended up with $900. The trip was canceled due to COVID, but we encouraged her to readjust her plans. Val shifted her mindset towards earning a CNA certification while still in high school, and her donors were happy to help.
And Fatima expanded her network. She landed an internship in ecology, earned a stipend with Girls Who Code, and got into Pritzker School of Molecular Engineering. These were all organizations represented by our team of mentors. Fatima said, a year ago, I couldn't see myself reaching out to these leaders of these programs just out of shyness. I do think that Girls Team Success Club made me realize that if I want to achieve my goals, I have to do more than just do good in school. I have to reach out to other people, communicate, and network. And so we invite you to join our network. Help us grow Girls Team Success Club.
You could be a mentor, make a donation, or reach out to us to learn more about our program. Thank you.
Thank you. Our website is in the chat. Thanks for having us, CLS.
Hello, I'm Lauren Siegel with Math Happens Foundation, and I'm pleased to be here to talk about math, where we find it. Do we have good models? Here is gerrymandering. Top left, 2 out of 3 circles favor red. In the middle, switch 1 tile. Bottom right, now 2 out of 3 favor orange. Are we using 3D printed spheres, small windows at the top and larger to the middle and bottom to understand projections? Greenland at the top of the globe is less than 1/4 the size of the United States. But in a flat projection, Greenland grows bigger than it is relative to the US, and likewise, the small windows grow to the same size as the others, out of proportion to reality. Do we understand the properties of sunlight? At Austin Nature and Science Center, sticks that are laser etched with degree measures and fitted with plumb lines help this group discover that sunlight arrives at the Earth in parallel rays. A V-frame with laser cut holes lets us stitch cord to make the tangent lines that define a parabola. That parabola can be matched exactly to the arc of water from any fountain. 3 tables made by a sculptor are arranged around a right triangle, demonstrating the Pythagorean theorem. You can also find a Penrose stair, play chess or checkers, and explore a proof without words. U-Teach maker Amy Gross created and made an optimal hydration calculation and tracking device. She's set up at the YMCA to engage with and inform members. Mathematicians are makers in history. Built into these antique survey chains that used to measure land across the US in feet are mathematical conversion systems to make decimal calculations easier. It comes up in the news over and over. Even experts tend to rely on anecdotal evidence to make decisions rather than considering the numbers. And it's accepted. Math literacy is a huge problem in the US. Kids are not learning well in school. An estimated 80 million adults lack basic math skills. And we need to help kids enjoy math. What are some solutions that we have on the table right now? Accelerate. Just learn faster. Pay a tutor or learn independently. Just make ourselves like math. Do we really need more paper and pencil work? Or should we have some opportunities to explore models and engage with authentic contexts? Is a screen the best way to understand 15 different kinds of tessellating pentagons discovered by 7 mathematicians over the course of 100 years? Or can we have real tiles, artistic interpretations, and opportunities to play, touch, and talk about it? There are 331 million Americans, and 22% are in school. So 258 million Americans have no access to a math learning experience. Where else can we go to learn some math? There is only one math museum in North America. It is in New York in Manhattan. We need to use our other public spaces. And we need makers to help us design and build interactive models so they can be shared in the 35,000 other museums and 16,000 public libraries across the United States, as well as schools. We can make math together. We can collaborate, learn, and celebrate. What we want for math is what we have, crafting with thick sparkle elastic cord, for example. Crafting stimulates neural activity, elicits positive response to learning, foster confidence and self-esteem, and offer opportunities to bond with other people. Combining making and math makes sense. Thank you.
Almost 2,000 years ago, the Roman poet Juvenal first asked the question, "Quis custodius ipsos custodes?" Who watches the watchmen? Today, the watchmen are running amok. We need leadership to find our way back to sanity, but what kind of leadership can provide the structure and guidance that helps everyone succeed? Leadership worth trusting comes from a very different source than hierarchical titles or organizational rituals. The leadership we need is interdependent. Interdependent leadership is an informed agreement between people. When authority figure watchmen miss the call or assert themselves beyond the scope of their expertise, such as when school administrators try to govern interaction online or in personal life, things go badly. We need to be informed, active participants. Testing each other as leaders strengthens our legitimacy. If we expect to hold our leadership accountable, we have to communicate exactly what they're accountable for. When we fail to think critically, to evaluate credibility, logic, and evidence, to connect and empathize with people who have different information than we do, we can't effectively engage our leaders or even each other. We don't learn this in school. School operates like a medieval church. Anyone who sat through a lecture or a faculty meeting knows exactly how it feels to silently face the altar and receive the long-winded word of God from someone in a position of power. In this way, the watchmen of school are not only missing an opportunity for connected learning, they're oppressing real learning. They've ordinary lives into subjects, isolated us and killed the Medici effect, rang bells and trained us like dogs. And today, school's love affair with authoritarianism is crumpling personal computing and the internet into tired old designs that didn't work long before the pandemic closed campuses. But now the effects are more intense and they're reaching further into our lives. Since learning online has been in the spotlight for a year, it's worth taking a moment to marinate on this thought. Our global culture is still evolving faster than school, and our technology is still getting smarter and more pervasive. So even as an entire generation of young people is forced to accept cameras everywhere, emerging research is now confirming that the algorithms in video conferencing and surveillance software are making everything worse for people who were already marginalized. Being observed has an effect. Remember the last time you were driving and you suddenly noticed a police officer in your rear view? Sweaty palms, dry mouth, your silent prayer that you'd never speed again? What effects do you think the robot eye has on students? And I haven't heard a single person say, "Oh, I can't wait for back to normal so I can use the bathroom pass at school." Every trip to the school bathroom is a Rashomon story. And when we do return to campus, why don't we focus on making the environment safer instead of making it television? While we're talking about personal space, give our students the powers to turn off the cameras. This is on us as a community. We need to stop acting surprised whenever a school administrator gets a cookie and then uses it to spy on everyone. Now, as the instruments of the watchmen become more invasive, they also become more oppressive. No one needs a seating chart or a detention room on Zoom. And who benefits from confusing lighting with skin color or a younger sibling's voice with a cheating co-conspirator? But the real test of leadership comes when we watch the watchmen. Observation and accountability is a popular concept when we're talking about keeping your eyes on your own paper, but what about the publishing, testing, and software corporations that turn learners into intellectual sharecroppers? More than 10 years ago, I began encouraging students to use the public internet in ways that became known as open source learning. It was a start. At the time, it was even considered a little edgy. But now that everybody's online, it's harder to tell the learning signals from the noise. I mean, don't tell him, but my dog is, in fact, not a lion. Any more than schools are democratic or innovative just because they're online. This video conference is unique because it's on Clouder. It would be different if the data were on Google Meet or Zoom or WebEx. I used to invite students to explore whatever tools they thought were best as a critical thinking exercise for their online jobs. But As the Watchmen got more sophisticated, they've extracted more value. So the data creators have less agency and less control than ever. This is why I helped launch the Open Source Learning Academy protocol. This year, for the very first time, students will own their own permanent identities online. They deserve to own the value of the content they create. I believe tools like this will literally restore the value of learning. So in the 2,000 years since Juvenal first asked the question, we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. I work with learners and educators to create a global free public system of education, and I watch the Watchmen.
Hi everyone. Nice to be back here after a couple of weeks. My name is Grif Peterson. I'm with Peer-to-Peer University. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing this year on developing online courses and free learning resources in service of community-based learning in folks' libraries and neighborhoods. So the organization I'm with is called Peer-to-Peer University. We're a nonprofit group in Boston. My colleagues are around the world, and we're sort of based on the values of knowledge being freely shared, learning being done with others, and education being a social good that should be facilitated outside of school. And the way that we do this is through learning circles, which are free facilitated study groups for people who want to learn something together. And as an organization, we're building the software, designing the courses, and refining the methodology and offering all of this to our community for free. As a small team, most of our work is done with facilitators who are not subject matter experts, so people who want to offer flexible and responsive programming to their communities in person or online. And these are often, but not always, library professionals. And given that they're not content experts, where the content comes from, is sort of a varied question. Primarily, we're working on adapting open access and free, I should say, online courses to create the basis for peer learning experiences. And after doing this now for about 6 years, we're very proud that we're seeing retention rates over 80%. But more importantly, we're able to engage folks who are new to online learning and haven't traditionally found success in higher education to create meaningful scaffolded learning experiences. We're offering more diverse programming where people feel comfortable running programs and topics that they're not experts in. And we're starting to connect with hiring centers, community colleges, and other organizations. And the program is meant to be very flexible and dynamic. And I think that was shown in this last year and a half when people have adapted from in-person to conference calls, WhatsApp, Zoom, and a variety of different virtual spaces that are designed to sort of meet the needs of the community that they're working with. So very simply, learning circles are 4 to 8 meetings, 60 to 90 minutes each, starting with a check-in, ending with a reflection. The idea is that we're mixing self-paced and group work with a group of about 4 to 15 learners. And as we've been doing this, we've come to better understand what makes an online course work well for group study. And I think this is maybe the key point that I want to share is that so much online learning is still designed for learning management systems that are thinking about students as singular entities completing something on their own. And we really want to sort of take the benefit of open online learning and think about these resources as the sort of basis of group study and the basis of exploration for a group of people who want to learn something together. So during the pandemic, we've had a lot of opportunities to refine some of our tools and resources around course creation and course remixing to help content creators and subject matter experts better express their content expertise for learning circles. We have developed a course creation guide, which sort of walks through the sort of pedagogical fundamentals of what we think makes a course work well for group study. We have made these facilitator guides, which are sort of lightweight templates to take an existing resource and sort of recontextualize it as a learning circle. And then we've made a lot of improvements to Course in Our Box, which is our open source software tool that's based on Jekyll for creating open access online courses. A few projects that I want to quickly call out. We've worked with Charlotte Mecklenburg Library in North Carolina to create a facilitator guide around the 1619 project so that more and more libraries and informal educators can feel comfortable running this important topic in a group setting. We've worked with New York University and Queens Public Library to sort of disseminate some NYU research to the public in the Learning Circle model. And so we've been just running our first pilots on this over the summer. And we've also been working with some other educators in North Carolina to adapt their anti-racist education workshop to the Learning Circle format. So where they can't be traveling in person to run workshops around the country anymore, they can know that people are really meaningfully engaging with their materials in this sort of peer learning context. Very excitingly, something that's changed in the last 3 weeks is I can share this link now to this credentials project that we're working on with College Unbound, where we're going to be adapting college curriculum to the Learning Circle model to offer for credit at the university. And I just posted a blog post in the chat about that. So we're just, we're really excited to see so many different people taking our methodology and our tools and sort of thinking about online learning in a slightly different, more inclusive, more peer-led way. My team and my colleagues and I are really excited about this work, and we're here to help with anyone who wants to sort of think about the ways that learning circles can serve as a new platform for your expertise and your topics. So thank you so much for having me and for all of this. Here, you muted.
Sorry about that.
You're muted.
Yep, I see. Hi, my name is Kelsven Brown-Thirston, and I'll be sharing on the innovator's role in anti-oppressive and anti-oppression in education. And this talk will examine a wide span of experiences with outside experts to help ignite a dialogue about what our role as innovators is. And having taught math in an inner city, predominantly Black school with a high immigrant population, I was given several curriculums. One included a first-person shooter game where kids would shoot one another, and then when shot, they had to answer a multiple-choice math problem. And perfect. Thank you. And so I'm going to go through a series of well-played and examples that we've seen innovators take on. And one is the Chicago Teachers Union. They've been a force not only for fighting for fair and equitable wages, but at the end, but to the end, the closing of local schools and incorporate critical race theory in their curriculum. Teacher affirming models of professional development, like lesson study is an excellent example. It was developed by teachers in Japan over the course of 100 years. So if you could just think about a program that just was able to be implemented for so long and not having to be changed every year. Another well-played is an example here in Illinois. The Illinois Families for Public Education have been working to protect young people's private data from being accessed and tracked in schools. And also we're going fast. Okay, let me move on. Obviously, many of us might think of big movements like March for Our Lives, but students should be able to contribute to making community in their classrooms through classroom town halls and assignments. And so as innovators, providing space for these sort of classroom town halls to take place in the schools with whatever things that we're creating. So Hall of Failure, what I mean by failure is not that by some standard somewhere there might be some success, but that this innovative example disrupted a holistic system of community and care. And so my first example is privatization and the charter school movement. Problematic specifically for removing parents and students and community members from decision-making processes through school board separation or through market perspectives. And if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else, which is very anti-democratic. Also, the ad hoc privatized teacher learning, as stated by Ball and Cohen in 1999, teachers can't just change their theory or practice simply because they're told to. It's crucial that they're given an opportunity to consider their practice. And so taking into consideration that human part of growth. Same for ad hoc curriculum. Researchers found that teachers that interrogated ambiguities and were given time to make sense of it actually were able to institute new programs and what have you. Also, confusing what makes a good teacher. Some of the examples we see, like with Teach for America, it says like privilege are our brightest, are good teachers, and by brightest we mean going to Ivy League schools. But research hasn't confirmed this, and things like Teach Like a Champion, which promotes very unhealthy work ethics, which doesn't support a teacher's mental health. In the book Algorithms of Oppression, we see how biased people make biased tech. Biased tech keeps oppressing children even while you sleep. And so, as David Preston mentioned, like protecting children's data and oh my gosh, this is going fast. Hall of Failure, another one is specifically programs, curriculum, et cetera, that have made money from a school despite producing outcomes, the promised outcomes. So who's really saying, compare Bill Gates' involvement to curriculum design to one parent and their child? Who bears the cost if it doesn't work? And so this is the rub for us as the innovator. Do we not apply for bids? Do we not make the programs? Do we not design curriculum? And I'm just going to leave this quote here for you to read. So when private companies profit from education initiatives, we must ask, how is this different from a company directly hiring children to work for them? How might we work differently if a law was passed that demanded any investor or creator had to put their own children in the programs that they created? What I'm calling for is something called an innovator's political conocimiento, beautifully exemplified by Lauren with the Math Happens Foundation. It's borrowing from Gutierrez's political conocimiento, which requires knowledge with students and with communities. It involves community knowledge and history. It supports students and families' right for creative insubordination. It incorporates building a critical view, questioning axioms and popular social justice parlance, such as the achievement gap. So it is possible for an innovator to do no harm, but it will take more than just good intentions. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben Su. I'm a graduate student at Arizona State University. In today's talk, I'm going to share some examples to lead our way in rethinking the role of games in simulations. We live in a world of complex systems where unpredictable global phenomena emerge from local actions. Games and simulations are useful meaning-making tools that help people understand such systems and solve complex problems. An everyday example of complex system is birds forming a V-shape. This pattern was produced by emergent processes. However, people used to think from a sequential mindset and believe that the bird at the very front controls the flock like a lead pilot gives directions in an air show. Research has shown that once learners have acquired a flawed mental model, changing it can be notoriously difficult. The representational advantages of digital games facilitate the development of mental models to understand complex processes. Given the fact that misconceptions consistently appear, symbolic representations in games which fail to capture the essential features of the processes would contribute to deeper misconceptions. Therefore, from an epistemological perspective, it is crucial to ensure that the game elements and the instructional materials accurately portray the learning content and involve scrutiny from disciplinary experts in forming correct mental models. Game mechanics that infuse modeling strategies through manipulating objects, navigating the interface, and exploring the system are featured in disciplinary integrated games. A good example is Search Symbolic, which helps players construct productive mental models. Democracy is another example in which the main mechanics encourage students to progressively reconstruct, refine, and reconceptualize their mental models. These interactions could potentially contribute to a deeper understanding of complex systems. As one of the most popular agent-based model environments, NetLogo has been widely used to foster model-based inquiry across diverse disciplines such as biology, social science, economy, architecture, and art, and help students understand the emergent process of complex systems. As shown in these examples, disciplinary integrated games and simulations often purposefully design mechanics that enable students to predict, evaluate, and reconstruct their simulation models, thereby influencing their mental models. Another type of games often engages students through inquiry-based multi-user virtual environments, such as Quest Atlantis. This game often involves rich narratives, role-playing scenarios, and identity-building opportunities to approach the content learning goals. Again, from the mechanic perspective, inquiry-based move allows learners to form stronger mental connections actively with the information presented in the games or the simulations. Nevertheless, games are not magic wands that can save education without our systematic and pedagogical changes demonstrated through structured guidance, progressive feedback, and dynamic interactivity. Practitioners who intended to use commercial off-the-shelf games need to review the contents and consider the pedagogical strategies. For instance, although the game Spore was not designed to accurately represent evolution, teachers could use it to directly target misconceptions through refutational approaches. Compared to business as usual teaching practices, games or simulations actively engage learners with content exploration through providing instant feedback. The practice of play will lead to better learning effects and learning outcomes. Take Physics Playground as an example. It allows learners to sketch objects to observe subsequent changes to the environment. Additionally, it embeds various cognitive support, such as work examples and concept explanation videos. To better integrate simulations and games into active learning environments, practitioners should also consider the use of ICAP framework. Interactive mode subsumes constructive, subsumes active, and then subsumes passive, suggesting the order of learning outcome based on the level of engagement. For instance, if technology only allows students to observe or manipulate virtual objects without generating new ideas, the cognitive engagement was considered low compared to constructive or interactive mode of engagement. In our recent effort of creating an online simulation module for learning natural selection, we used prompt questions to encourage students to constructively generate new inferences from observing dynamic visualizations. Generally speaking, the role of feedback, guidance, and interactivity as a synergistic practice to leverage the affordances within digital games and simulation should be noted from an instructional perspective. To support productive learning in the STEAM fields, stakeholders should take the three perspectives into consideration, and concerted efforts should be involved from both industry, disciplines, and the field of education. Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, let's do this. Hi, my name is Vi Ha, and I'm from the Los Angeles Public Library. Science fiction has the power to change the world. These stories prepare us by stretching our minds to imagine the fantastic, the gruesome, the apocalyptic. The best science fiction takes our current science and imagines futures, creating worlds that ought to be possible. With these created, imagined worlds, we can then explore and extrapolate what logically could happen in our own lifetimes. The best science fiction describes worlds that are completely possible, and from there, force us to consider deep, ethical issues about what makes us human. In exploring current and upcoming technologies, science fiction can give us a tether to considered solutions, or at least take a considered look at current crises, such as climate change, zoonotic diseases, systemic racism. To give an example, science fiction helps us imagine the magnificence of space exploration and simultaneously prepares us for the issues of capitalistic exploitation of space resources. And most importantly, science fiction regularly dreams up society and world systems that function differently from ours. These dreamt up societies allow us to envision and better realize the future we do want. Vision in place, we can then do the work towards creating a better world. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. This passage, taken from Octavia E. Butler's Parable of the Sower, lies at the crux of what science fiction exposes. How well will we, as a society, handle change? Octavia E. Butler was a writer, world builder, and genius who made room in the white male-dominated science fiction world for works with African American female leads. In a world with all its inequities against that of people of color, against women, against kids with single parents, Butler wrote herself into the story. Butler's quandaries fiction grappled with geopolitical, environmental, and cultural quandaries that impacted civilizations. Her works created futures exploring issues of environmental disasters, sexuality, tribalism. Butler's genius was in creating characters like us. with our hierarchical tendencies, with our biologically inherent and environmentally created flaws, and placing these characters into different worlds and teasing out what reactions we would have if life were different. These characters all had painful choices to make, but ultimately decided ethically, believing in the potential goodness of humans living in relationship with the environment. These protagonists, like the young people we work with, have challenging backgrounds, facing racism, environmental traumas, colonialism. And for the young people we work with, they can be like Butler characters, creating universes that equitably benefit humankind, the environment, and Earth's biodiversity. In what manner did our protagonists affect change and reimagine societies? They imagined radical connections and created interconnected learning spaces and communities. Butler realized you cannot bring about high levels of change and resilience without bringing people together and creating institutions to drive and continue the work. For Butler, the institution that mattered most to her were libraries. Libraries shaped Butler, and her relationship with the Central Library of the Los Angeles Public Library, in particular, served as an environment that allowed her to create, to flourish, to be continually inspired. Butler, with her insatiable curiosity, would plan out her trips to the Central Library to do her research. She would take the bus from Pasadena and explore all the knowledge available within the walls of the library. How do libraries encourage people to make ethical decisions with conscientiousness and the belief in the ultimate goodness of humankind? How do we bring value to libraries and encourage a dynamic problem-solving culture that is inclusive and responsible to the world we live in? Libraries have always been institutions dedicated to learning, and as community gathering spaces, libraries are radical in their belief that having a place open to wonder, to discover, to investigate, and to build knowledge is of the utmost importance in building our idealized future of greater equity, representation, and sustainability. Earlier, I quoted the protagonist in Parable the Sower, who creates a religion in a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles, and I quote again, "All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you." This is a maker ethos. At the Octavia Lab, the makerspace built at the Central Library of the Los Angeles Public Library, in Octavia E. Butler's second home, we're doing this. We encourage people to touch and to be changed by knowledge and experience through free access. Libraries are the place to imagine a better future, and a makerspace is the best place to start building a more just, equitable, and sustainable society. I end with Butler's strongest affirmation: so be it, see to it.
Amazing talks. Corey, I think you were on mute. I wasn't sure if you were saying something.
Oh, yep, there it is. It's back. Thanks, Wendy.
Okay, I'll take it away. Thank you everyone for those amazing presentations. And my favorite part about Connected Learning, similar to Lisa, was the Rising Scholars event. But my second favorite is definitely the Ignite talks every year. I look forward to them, and just how much I've learned in the past hour of these Ignite talks is amazing. So I really enjoyed learning about the success stories that each of you shared in the work that you're doing. And I want to thank you for all that work that you're doing, and also thank you for what you offered and shared with us today. Thinking about leadership, thinking about public spaces, about math, about success stories, about mentorship, about anti-oppression, Chicago teachers unions and grassroots movements, and building a more society were some of the keyword takeaways as I was listening. So thank you everyone for sharing that again. Thank you everyone for participating. This is very close to the end. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass around, I'm gonna show some slides and say thank yous. But first, I'm gonna paste this link in the chat. We would love to hear your feedback, your ideas, and just how you're this past month of Connected Learning. So there's the link in the chat. And now I'm going to show you all. Perfect. So before we head off, we want to give our thank yous to everyone that participated and that was part of putting on this event. In the link. And this event was hosted by the Connected Learning Lab, by MIT, by the Scheller Teacher Education Program, and the Learning Games Network. We want to say thank you to all of the organizations that helped put on each of these sessions and facilitated all of these different panels. So thank you so much to everyone on this list for helping organize. We also want to thank the UCI staff and the MIT staff that helped put on this virtual event. This was the first Ignite that was virtual, but also this entire Connected Learning Summit experience. Yes, I love all the claps and the hearts. So thank you to the staff at UCI and MIT. And then thank you to all of our volunteers that helped review, helped organize, helped put together each session. I think this conference really showed me the value of community and turning to another person and saying, would you help me with this? Could we do this? And that's why my word was connected when Corey asked at the beginning. And that's it. That's the last slide. So the closeout, we can stay here, we can hang out, we can go to the farewell lounge and hang out with Ignite speakers, or we can go to the lobby. I think in 13 minutes you'll be prompted for two of those options. But thank you, everyone. Yes, Julie just posted it. Thank you, Julie. And that's it.